World War II, humanity's darkest nightmare. 100 powerful historical photos are about to be revealed. Drop a one if you're ready to watch this video all the way through with me. From 1933 to 1945, under Hitler's leadership, Nazi Germany launched World War II, plunging Europe into tragedy while spreading fascism's grip across the continent with devastating consequences. During the Battle of Britain in summer 1940, the Spitfire became a symbol of defiance as RAF pilots stopped the Luftwaffe and shielded London's skies from German bombing raids. On August 25, 1944, cheers erupted along the Champs-Élysées as Allied forces and the French resistance forced the surrender of German occupiers, liberating Paris after 4 years of occupation. USS Iowa fired massive broadsides in the Pacific during World War II, from the Gilberts to Okinawa, before becoming a lasting symbol of American naval power for decades. The Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress dominated European skies from 1942, flying daylight bombing raids over Berlin and Hamburg, paving the way for liberation as Allied forces crushed Nazi industry. On August 9, 1945, Nagasaki became a massive, unmarked grave as the atomic bomb Fat Man leveled the city, leaving behind a wound that would never fully heal. On December 7, 1941, the destroyer USS Shaw exploded when its forward magazine was hit by Japanese bombs, creating one of the most haunting images etched in American memory. In Antwerp on November 27, 1944, a German V-2 rocket struck a main intersection, killing civilians and disrupting the vital Allied supply route, pushing northward into the Netherlands. On May 5, 1945, at Ebensee in Austria, skeletal prisoners from the Mauthausen camp were liberated by U.S. troops, exposing the full, horrifying cruelty of Nazi concentration camps. Do you know who General Eisenhower is talking to? This was just before they headed out for the historic D-Day landings in Normandy. Drop your answer in the comments. On August 15, 1945, in Alaska, U.S., and Soviet sailors from the Amur Red Fleet shared beer and raised joyful toasts on VJ Day, celebrating Japan's surrender together. During the Pearl Harbor attack on December 7, 1941, sailors in motor launches rescued survivors from the water around the West Virginia as Japanese bombs shattered ships. In April 1945, U.S. infantry marched through Waldenburg, Germany, during the push to drive back German forces, just as Berlin was on the brink of collapse. In the summer of 1945, after victory in Europe, senior U.S. military officials convened in Paris to plan reconstruction, celebrating hard-won peace, yet facing daunting post-war challenges. On Guadalcanal's beach in 1942, fallen U.S. Marines lay beside an overturned landing craft, a stark reminder of the heavy price paid in the Pacific's first major Allied offensive. In 1944 New York, men departed for war, leaving wives behind as America mobilized its strength for Europe, uncertain if love and life at home would ever be restored. From 1939 to 1945, under Führer Adolf Hitler, Nazi Germany unleashed World War II, beginning with the invasion of Poland and dragging all of Europe into unprecedented catastrophe. In 1943, at the Tehran Conference, Joseph Stalin sat with Churchill and Roosevelt, shaping Allied strategy to open the Western Front and drive German forces back from the Soviet Union. In 1942, in North Africa's desert, British forces clashed with Rommel's Afrika Korps at El Alamein, a decisive turning point that stopped Axis advances into Egypt and the Suez. If you liked this video, leave a 1 in the comments. Are you ready to share your thoughts with us on whether World War III will happen? Japan in the 1930s accelerated militarization and industrialization, invading Manchuria in 1931 and China in 1937, laying the groundwork for the Pacific War's bloody battles to come. 1941, Crete. German paratroopers' daring airborne assault reshaped modern warfare, but civilian suffering and contested intelligence failures during the Battle of Crete are often overlooked. Germany tested the Flettner FL-282 prototype in 1943, an engineering curiosity whose limited naval reconnaissance role hinted at rotorcraft's future despite wartime material shortages. The Messerschmitt Me 262 stunned Allied pilots with jet speed and innovation, yet its late 1944 deployment over Europe couldn't reverse logistical collapse and strategic air superiority losses. 1944 over London, the German V-1 cruise missiles introduced terror from the skies, rapidly accelerating civil defense innovations and reshaping urban resilience across wartime Britain. Military-issued stimulants like Pervitin boosted German troop endurance during early blitzkrieg campaigns, but by 1940, long-term dependence, health impacts, and morale erosion undermined combat effectiveness. June 1944, Sweden. The Bäckebo 5-2 crash turned a failed test into priceless intelligence, letting Allied analysts map trajectories and fuels, while London and Antwerp braced for later mobile launches. In Reims, French schoolhouse walls heard surrender. By May 1945, Jodel's signature ended the Reich's fight, even as a second ceremony in Berlin underlined Allied choreography over symbolism. Nonon-Le Pin's emergency stockade wrestled with rations, sanitation, and guard rotations as tens of thousands poured in from the Falaise pocket. Logistics overnight became strategy. August 1944. September 1943, Geneva. At Ground Jets, Barbara Borsinger hides fugitives and cares for refugees. She is the example of a silent network of doctors. June 1944, outside Rome. After the Anzio breakout, intake yards sorted German POWs, paperwork, ID checks, sanitation, vaccinations, then rail south to Naples. In Switzerland, a German prisoner poses under neutral custody. By 1943, internment meant farm labor, curfews, and Red Cross parcels. Neither freedom nor brutality, but a tightrope between law and geography. September 1939, in the North Atlantic near Iceland, a scuttled German freighter fueled Nazi treasure lore. Yet surviving manifests pointed to mundane cargo, machinery, chemicals, mail. Marked for safe passage under Red Cross rules, the Japanese liner Awamaru was torpedoed in the Taiwan Strait. In April 1945, misidentification birthed treasure myths and a diplomatic headache. A pistol at close range captures the brutality of summary killings, war crimes prosecuted after 1945, likely Eastern Front, where POW protections collapsed in partisan zones during 1942. In a grim Berlin hall in 1939, Hitler delivered a furious speech to officials, each bitter word sowing the seeds of the nightmare to come, a global war. In 1939, Japanese forces seized the strategic Chusan Islands off China's coast, tightening their grip in the drawn-out Second Sino-Japanese War. In June 1940, beside the Eiffel Tower, German soldiers paused to admire France's symbol, then marched on, as Paris had just fallen under their boots. Black smoke filled the skies behind Tower Bridge, London, September 1940. Germany launched the Blitz, raining terror down on Britain's capital with relentless bombs. In the winter of 1941, Pearl Harbor burned. U.S. battleships sank in flames, and more than half of America's air power was wiped out by Japan's surprise attack. In the wake of Pearl Harbor, Roosevelt signed the Declaration of War. The U.S. entered World War II, and the world order began to shift, stained in blood. Leave a 1 if this photo makes you feel emotional. Stalingrad, February 1943. The Red Army wiped out German remnants in the rubble. This stunning victory turned the tide of the entire Second World War. Through crashing waves at Normandy, American troops surged ashore from thousands of ships. The D-Day landing tore open the gateway to liberate Europe in 1944. Paris bloomed with flags and cheers in August 1944 as General de Gaulle marched through Place de la Concorde, the city rejoicing after 4 years under occupation. In 1945, German soldiers were marched away under guard, once mighty armies dissolving. The Third Reich's irreversible collapse, sweeping a war-weary, devastated Europe in 1945, after shattered fronts across the continent. At Yalta in Crimea, Churchill, Roosevelt, and Stalin sat together in February 1945, negotiating spheres of influence, Poland's fate, and the architecture of post-war institutions amid ruins and mistrust. April 1945 at Buchenwald, emaciated survivors stared into the lens as U.S. troops arrived, their eyes documenting starvation, forced labor, and systematic murder, testimony that shattered denial and foretold war crimes trials. In Berlin, the Soviet flag rose above the Reichstag in 1945, while below, in a bunker, Hitler killed himself as brutal street fighting extinguished the regime's final illusions of survival. Nagasaki became a mushroom cloud as Fat Man detonated, killing tens of thousands and pushing Japan toward surrender, the long shadow of nuclear terror stretching across history. August 1945.